Hello, you're listening to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club, and you're most welcome.
Oh, hello. My name's Paul Carmichael.
And I'm Alan Lear.
And welcome again to the presidential shed. He's still not here, is he, Al? This is quite some time.
It is starting to get a bit silly now. I think his cistern must be the size of Lake Bala.
It must be, but, well, hopefully if we get a little bit of a drought, maybe that'll inspire some sort of a movement. But in the meantime, we can continue sorting up the bookshelves, the many books. The door. Do you want to get that?
Yes, certainly. Who is it?
It's me.
Oh, my word. It's Lady Hamilton from the Manor. She usually wants something. We better open the door. Okay. Lady Hamilton, hello. Lovely to see you. Do come into the presidential shed.
Thank you so much, Paul and Alan. Delighted to be invited, to be allowed across the threshold.
So it's a rare occasion, but we are allowed to just let people in for a quick look around.
I'm just going to paint a red square in front of the door so you can have a red carpet entrance.
Thank you.
There we go. Well, Lady Hamilton, what can we do for you? It's not often that you would come down from the manor to us here in the village.
No, well, I don't like doing it too often. You never know what you might catch. But today I'm in trouble and I need help because I am collecting for the Distressed Battleaxes Association. And being a Battleaxe myself and being the age that I am, I'm beginning to feel just a little distressed. And so I think I need money for a facelift.
Oh.
No, not a lot.
I wouldn't have gone that. I was presuming more sort of like an afternoon of jam and scones or something. But no, that's fair enough.
No. I can have that anyway. No, I need a little bit more to help the distressing nature of this Battleaxe as she struggles towards old age. So a little bit of something in my tin, please.
Well, I'll be honest with you. The president's not here, and I'm completely. Alan, have you got any change? It's all plastic these days. Have you got?
I haven't carried any money since COVID. Have you checked the bingo machine?
Well, I'll tell you what we could do, Christine, is we could just... this could go either way, because usually something interesting falls out of it, or it could have the other effect. But I'm going to give the bingo machine a bit of a spin, and let's see if we can get any loose change, or possibly something a little more than that.
Tony's enchanted bingo machine. A curious contraption of cogs, levers and glowing buttons that hums with ominous energy. This machine generates 3 completely random numbers. These numbers are fed directly into the Dewey Decimal System, the arcane reference system by which books and their contents are categorized. In this way, the bingo machine conjures from thin air a topic of conversation so enthralling, so wildly unexpected, that it leaves the members of the Rambling Club both bewildered and vaguely excited. And thus, another evening is saved from the brink of boredom, thanks to Tony's marvellous, possibly haunted and entirely inexplicable bingo machine.
Oh, well, Christine, no change, but, here we are, we're in the great outdoors. They do say, that maybe, a change is as good as a rest, so would you like to come for a little ramble with us and see where we end up, maybe?
Do you know, Paul, I would, and I think a little ramble in the sunshine would probably do me the world of good, much, much better than any stupid facelift or cosmetics or anything ridiculous like that. Deep breathing, listen to the birds, all that sort of thing. It's just what I need.
Sounds ideal.
Well, let's find out what the numbers are from the machine for our first ramble.
0, 0, 2.
0, 0, 2. 0, 0, 2. And that means the subject is... the book. The book.
The book.
The book.
Well, we could take that to mean the concept of the book. It could be a book that springs to mind. God, the book. There's so much there.
Well, it could be anything. It could be the Bible. It could be the Gutenberg Bible, the first printed book. It could be a book that our president or your president has written, maybe. It could be a book that I've written. It could be a book that Keir Starmer has written, or anybody. I don't know.
Yeah. Are there any particular books that you can and either of you can think about that have been a bit of inspiration? Well, for me, you know what? When I think of the book, I immediately think of the voice of the book, and it's Peter Jones, because he was the book in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I remember the sound of his voice. It was very comforting. He had a lovely voice. So that was the book to me, I suppose.
I have never read, heard, seen, whatever, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so I don't really understand that. I know it's immensely popular, but it passed me by. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, do you remember Peter Jones when he was on Just a Minute? And he did a lot of sitcoms in the 70s, Peter Jones.
Oh, of course I do, yes.
Yeah, it's that warmth that he had in his voice. You know, there was a lovely warm tone to him. And he was narrating the most unusual prose, but with the calmness of sort of like a proper old-fashioned BBC announcer, you know, able to just convey that information and receive pronunciation.
Well, he narrated The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Never knew that.
He did, yeah. He was the voice of the book of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so he was the voice of the actual physical object, because it was a radio piece originally. It's a lovely voice on him. But that's me. When you think of the books, there was the Gutenberg Bible, Christine, but what was that? Was that your first thought?
Well, no, but it was the first book that was printed. I think I'm right in saying, I'm sure there's somebody out there who'll say I'm completely wrong, but I'm sure it was the first book that was printed, which is quite significant. Although, in fact, we've moved away from books now, although I love them. I absolutely love the physical feeling of a book. It's all very well reading things on your Kindle or whatever, but nothing is the same. And the smell of a book, especially an old book. And I don't mean centuries old. I just mean a well-loved book that maybe your mum or your dad had or you've had since childhood. Opening one of your childhood books. My favourite was Orlando the Marmalade Cat. I don't know if Orlando still excites children today, but it was just wonderful. And Orlando's wife was called Grace. And I used to love that. And I've still got it, an enormous book. It's about 2 feet tall and 18 inches wide, a really big book. So that was the first book that I remember was Orlando the Marmalade Cat. And Amelia Ann Stiggins. You won't have read Amelia Ann Stiggins because you're not a girl.
No.
Because Amelia Ann Stiggins was a girly book, and I remember that. And Amelia Ann Stiggins was she was dressed up one day. She was a bridesmaid at the wedding of one of her mother's friends. And she looked absolutely gorgeous. I can see the picture now. But when she was able to take the frock off and she kicked her shoes off, which hurt, she was about 12, I think, Amelia Ann. And she said, "Always remember it's better to be comfortable than grand." And I've remembered that to this day, and I certainly agree with that now. I'm sitting here in very comfortable clothes, as you can see, rather relaxed.
Yes, absolutely. But I think you're right, and that's something that we've talked about, haven't we? That whole thing of, especially these days, when you order a book in the post, when you open it, you can get the smell of a library, and it's that transported thing. And because you're constantly reading, aren't you? You're a massive librarian.
Yes, and even with new books, if you receive them in the post, there's a distinctive smell to a freshly published book as well that you get. And I think I'm with Christine. I very much prefer physical books over electronic books, but they both have their advantages. Ebooks, obviously, you can have a whole compendium of ebooks in a very small space, and particularly for books that are out of print, so there's no charge for them. It's very easy for people to access the classics that way. So that's a good thing. But they have kind of non-overlapping advantages, because for ebooks, it's very easy to get them all in a small space, and you could smuggle a whole library into prison up your bum, no problem at all. But on the other hand...
Did you say you were going to smuggle them into prison?
Well, you could. I'm not saying I will, but I'm saying you could.
Well, I don't have any experience of prison. I wondered maybe you do you?
No, not yet, no. But
Not yet, no.
I'm told that prison libraries are constantly being cut back, so it might be useful. Whereas on the other hand, you can't beat a burglar to death with a Kindle, whereas if you've got a big solid copy of The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, it's quite easy to defend your home with. So
I'm completely surrounded by books on. Well, you can see you can't see because you can't, because we're on the radio, the steam radio. But my husband is a bibliomaniac, and the thing in his life that is the most important, way beyond me, are his books, and we have thousands and thousands and thousands of books. They're double banked in bookcases, and he's been collecting his entire life, and he collects illustrated books. He tries to collect first editions, but sort of 50, 60 years ago, you could do that rather more easily than you can now. So we're surrounded by books. I love them, and they decorate at home. They're wonderful.
yes, who was it? Was it Cicero who said a room without books is like a body without a soul?
I don't know, but something less. I have heard something similar. Was it him? One of those, anyway. No, they're wonderful, and I think and I tell you, I've got now a great niece and two great nephews, and they're just the age when they're learning and starting to really run away with reading. And my great niece in particular, she's 8, and she can just be absorbed in a book all day. And it's wonderful to see their minds expand when they can do it for themselves. I mean, being read to is all very well, but when you can do it for yourself, and suddenly this whole world opens up to them, they can just open a book on their own, and wow, they're away. It's magic, absolutely magic.
Yeah.
Well, the terrible thing is, I don't know the figure, so I shouldn't really have started saying this, but still in this country today, there's far too many people who are still illiterate, which is unbelievable. I mean, how do you open a soup carton? I mean, how do you get through anything if you can't read?
And it limits that scope that you can have onto the world so much. Then, I mean, something that again, like with your nieces, I mean, we read to our kids every single night, and it was a heartbreaking night when, in both cases, we were dismissed and told we didn't need to read it anymore. They could read it. I remember I was allowed to sit and listen, and it was read to me for a little bit, but after that I was not needed, and that was difficult. But on the other hand, I know that they both, well, not as much as they did, but they do both read. I think that's such a vital thing. And you're right, the levels of illiteracy are terribly sad, but the number of youngsters having taught for a very long time who don't read for the love of reading is really quite sad these days.
Well, and it's all about screens, isn't it? Books and pages and paper, they're not really interested in. It's all about screens. And also this texting business. And then their grammar. Don't get me going on grammar. I'm a stickler for grammar. I'm a Battleaxe, don't forget. And the grammar. I mean, you see government ministers whose grammar is appalling, and I think, good Lord. But there we are. That's just me. I think grammar is important, and I think speaking properly and writing properly and, using words properly is important. But I'm a dying breed, I'm afraid, which is where we came in. I'm a distressed Battleaxe.
This is like what I was saying to you yesterday, Paul, because they had that woman in East Tennessee who was doing a town hall, and she said to the crowd, the Chinese could call in the USA's debt tomorrow and you'd all be speaking Mandarin. And I thought, don't be ridiculous. The Americans couldn't learn Mandarin. Barely master the subjunctive. If they want to say anything, they just shoot each other. But the thing about children reading, apparently the thing that is the best predictor of whether children are going to read for pleasure is not having parents read to them. It's seeing their parents read for pleasure. The reading to them is important, obviously, but it's the modelling of the behaviour that they're likely to copy.
Well, that's very interesting. It's kind of obvious, but it's something I'd never thought about before. Yeah. So when the children are around, I must read. When the children are around, I must bury my head in a book, not in the stone.
I was going to say, but Neil is probably a big factor in the nephews and nieces reading, because they see that he loves books, so it's that he's modelling the behaviour for them to copy. I used to love my mum. I remember my mum reading The Dark is Rising sequence and doing all the Welsh accents and so forth for it, and I used to love it. Long after I could read it myself, I still enjoyed sitting down of a night and listening to her read it because she read it so well. But I did read an encouraging thing in The Guardian a little while back. Apparently the younger generation, the 20-somethings now, are going back into bookshops rather than using Amazon. Partly because of, partly for political reasons, but also partly because they find that a good bookseller or a good librarian is much better at telling them the sort of books they will like to read, because the algorithm just spits up exactly the same thing you've already read. And that's not what you want, is something similar, but different enough to make it worth another investment of time.
Absolutely. The other thing, it's by the way, you talked about your mother reading to you in Welsh accents and things. Reminds me of, one of my absolute favourite things of all time is Richard Burton reading Under Milk Wood.
Lovely.
I mean, obviously, I'm talking about a recording of it, so that is not me reading the book. That's listening to him. I mean, it is just such a wonderful story, and I love that. But hang on, you said something else which I was also going to comment on. What is it? I've lost the plot already. I went back to Richard Burton. What did you say about... What did you just say, Alan? You can't remember either. Paul, what did Alan just say? Come on.
Oh, right, hang on.
Younger people back in bookshops. My mother reading The Dark is Rising sequence. Neil modelling reading for younger generations in Europe.
Yes, there was one other thing which it doesn't matter. I had something wonderful to say, and I'll remember in half an hour or so. Don't worry.
Oh, it'll come up again. That's fine. The one encouraging thing I have read as well, though, is there's a real trend amongst late teens and early 20s for going back to vinyl for music. That
I know.
That revolution. Oh, it's wonderful. I think there's a romance about actually the whole thing of taking the record, placing it down. You don't get that with Spotify, I don't think.
No, and I remember we used to have the 45s. Anybody young listening won't know what I'm talking. It's not a revolver, a Colt 45. It's a small,
although it does revolve,
sort of 9-inch. And you used to pile them up on your dance set. You could put about 8 or 9 on your dance set. Which was a record player, and then one by one they would drop down and play. I know, and the quality of sound is not as perfect. It's not as XYZ, but it is just fabulous. It's different. And if you listen to a classical recording, we've got yards and yards of old vinyl. Is it vinyl or vinyl? I don't know. Vinyl. Vinyl.
I think. Yeah.
Yards and yards of old vinyl classical recordings. Some of them are, 40, 50 years old, I suppose. Is that possible? Has it been around that long? And it's just that little bit of sort of crackle in the background, and it's wonderful.
And there's, in one of Ian Banks' books, he makes the point that, it was kind of before Spotify, but he was talking about when people use the shuffle function on CDs so that you listen to the tracks on an album in a different order. And he makes the point that actually there are bands that think very hard about the order that songs should go in. And particularly if you're thinking about something like a concept album, like the Moody Blues Days of Future Past or something, it's supposed to be listened to in a specific order because there's a narrative to it. So if you listen to the vinyl album, that's as the band intended it to be listened to, not just listening to your favourite track on Spotify 8 times in a row.
That's something else I hadn't thought. It's 2 things you've made me think about. That's something else I hadn't thought about, that if you listen to it all the way through, that is, as the composer, for want of another word, intended.
You capture those little moments that you wouldn't hear now because recordings have been cleaned up so much. Basically a little bit sanitized, so you can't hear those moments that would have happened when Bernstein sort of just tapped his baton or something. But my favourite example of that is there's a recording of a piece of music by Tony Hatch. And if you listen to the 45 record, just as the final note fades out, you hear a noise that just goes, and you think, well, what's that going? And what it is that just at that moment, whoever had finished that note reached out, got a cigarette, and you hear them lighting the cigarette right at the last moment of the recording. It's so transported right back into the recording studio.
That is extraordinary. But what's extraordinary is that they didn't realise and start again.
Yeah,
I think they didn't realise when they were recording it.
No, it was just, I think the thought was the take was good enough. Joe Siggy came in. Let's not worry, out it goes. It was, preferable, I would say.
Now, we've segued, haven't we? I love the word segue.
We have. Well, that's good, though, because we've actually just run out of time on the first one. So.
Oh.
That was really good. Can I commend your forbearance, Paul, on not... the topic was the book and you didn't immediately drag it to the first folio. I thought you did very well to keep Shakespeare out
I
of
was
that
restrained, Alan. I restrained myself on the Shakespeare there.
It's all he ever talks about, Christine. Is bloody Shakespeare and everything.
Well, here we are, second location, and the numbers are...
3, 8, 3.
383, 383, and that means the subject is... Postal Communication.
Oh, well. Well, we live in the back of beyond, so we don't get very much of that. We see the postman about twice a week, I suppose. And that's on a good week. But, it's everybody complains about the cost of post. And people have given up sending Christmas cards by the time you bought the card and paid for the stamp, etc., etc. So the post has to rely on Amazon. We were talking earlier about Amazon in relation to books. And if it wasn't for... Although a lot of Amazon actually probably doesn't come by the Royal Mail, does it? It comes by Deliveroo or whatever, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's all via Amazon, and they're talking about using drones as of later this year in some cities. They're going to pilot drone delivery, and you've got to get a little Amazon trampoline in your garden, and it will drop a present in, which I find a little, no, not for me.
Hang on. I know what you mean about Amazon threatening drones, if threatening is the right word, but I didn't know you were going to have to buy your own trampoline. I've got one, actually. I've got one of these little exercise trampolines. So I've got one.
Well, you might be able. This is a special drone mat, but up on legs. So if you've got a drone delivery, then you've got to put your drone table, which looks like this trampoline outside, but which has got a big Amazon logo on it, and that's what the drone. So the drone doesn't land. Apparently, the drone rocks your thing, and it's got to land in this net. So don't order anything valuable, which could be broken.
No. And the thing is,
it'll come, won't it? Sorry, Alan. I mean, it will come. It sounds fanciful, but it'll come.
It will. It definitely will.
But I mean, the thing is, I can see the logic of saying we're going to do drones in cities because of the dense population. It would be quite easy to, drone delivery in semi-rural areas. You probably wouldn't have the flying range, but in an urban area where people are quite concentrated, I can see that it would work. But then they're saying you need an outdoor space where you can set a crash mat table thing. Well, there are a lot of people in cities who don't have that because they live in flats or apartments or whatever. So it doesn't seem like a totally thought through solution. That
it seems like something that would work very well in America.
Already,
where there is
we've gone off
lot more space.
We've gone off the Royal Mail, but while we're on this delivery business, a friend of ours is called David Allen, and he set up DHL. And literally, and everybody now knows DHL, it's a monumental global company, and he's an incredibly rich man. But literally, he and his mate started out picking up a parcel in London and getting on their bike and delivering it. It was a sort of office delivery system. And from that, DHL grew. So great oaks from little acorns. But we're talking supposed to be about the Royal Mail.
Yeah. Well,
I love the postman arriving. I love red. It's my favourite colour. And I love the little red van and all that. And I tell you what I love about postmen, and I do mean postmen, not women, because they tend not to do it so much, is they wear shorts. I mean, our postman, he does come more than twice a week. I'm terribly unfair. But he wears shorts in all but the most freezing weather. And he's got normal sort of short, fat, hairy legs like Morecambe and Wise. Was it? No, it was Wise, wasn't it? Only Wise have the
Was.
short, fat, hairy legs. And it's absurd. I'm absolutely freezing, and the snow is coming down, and there he is. He comes round the corner with his shorts on. You've got to love him.
I do. I think it's a bit like I still have a milkman who delivers, and I don't.
Wow.
I think there's only about 4 people who have that along the street, but that's something I've known from birth. So I do like the milk delivery each morning. I think it costs more, probably double, than if I were to just pop down and get it from the supermarket. But again, I know that the dairy is local, so I know I'm supporting them. But it's the tradition of it that I do like, and I do miss that about the Royal Mail. So, I miss the regular deliveries that we used to get with occasional fun things.
I always say to my wife, a day without post is like a day without bills.
No, but that's not true. Because a day without bills is fabulous, and a day without post is not necessarily fabulous. Haven't you got that the wrong way round?
Well, no, because the bills come in the post, so...
Well, not all of them.
Uh,
They just come, don't they? And on and on and on.
Endlessly, yeah.
I'm absolutely with you, Paul, that we should all support people like the local dairy and goodness knows what. But my other half just simply does not drink milk. He doesn't have milk in tea, coffee, or anything like that. If he has a bowl of cereal, it's once every 6 months. And so it doesn't feature. And I like totally skimmed milk. So I'm afraid I do get mine from elsewhere, as it were. We don't have enough milk to make it worth them coming up the drive.
No, a daily delivery, no.
But it's so sad. People, I know why they do it, and I do it. We all do it. You rush to the supermarket and you pick all your bits up instead of going to the butcher and the baker and goodness knows what. Modern life. Although we've got some wonderful artisan shops near us. Anyway, we're straying off the Royal Mail. Somebody bring us back to the Royal Mail.
The Royal Mail. Certainly email has only been really a comparably recent thing. It's certainly, and I thank God, social media wasn't a thing when I was at university. That would have been absolute hell. But during the time after university, before we were in this sort of interim period, my wife and myself, we would exchange letters, sometimes twice a week. Writing between myself and Edinburgh and sending them back and forth. And I think it's sad that I can't see why my kids would ever experience that now, because it would just be such a weird novelty one-off thing to do, but it would never be a regular thing. And I think, again, that maybe does that take away that thought about expressing yourself, because you're limited to the paper and you know that when you're done, you can't edit it, off it goes. So maybe that makes us more careful in our speech, or maybe more open sometimes. I don't know.
No, I mean, the art of letter writing is dying out. I mean, Neil and I met at the end of the 60s when we were, I was 18, he was 19. So we met in 1968. And we've still got the letters that we wrote to each other. There was no other way. You had to write if you weren't together. Letters and cards and things like that. And they're wonderful things to have and look back on. But no, today's youngsters won't have that. They can't write, most of them. Well, and everything is so instantaneous, isn't it? Everything has to be so instant. It has to be now, and preferably yesterday, as it were. Which, of course, email is. Email's been going, about 25 years? Quarter of a century, I suppose? It was the end of the last century, wasn't it?
Something like that. I think 1997, I got my first email address around then.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was just coming into general use when I was in the latter days of school. So, yeah, it would be the late 90s, just before the millennium, I think.
The other thing which people don't use anymore, and I'm as guilty as the next, is people don't use the telephone anymore. People text you. And I'm as bad as anybody else. I will text somebody and say, are you around? Shall we talk, sort of thing, instead of just picking up the phone and hoping for the best. And if it's not convenient, they'll tell you. And people don't ring anymore. They do it all by this magic little device called a mobile phone.
Well, I think that's what you were saying in the previous ramble about literacy rates. It's one of the things that makes literacy so important, is that everything is online now or by text message. It's all text-based communication. If you can't read well, you really are up the creek without a paddle these days. It's not like the old days when you used to be able to drop into a local, the local council would have a one-stop shop or something, and you could or you could go to the post office and talk to some. Where are the post offices these days? You could talk to somebody and they would help you. These days, you've got an online assistant and they will communicate with you by text. Text on your computer screen or a text to your computer. And if you've only got a very basic grasp of reading or no grasp at all, how you would navigate the modern world in any effective way is beyond me.
But at the other end of the scale, and if there's any old people listening, what I think is terribly important is what we try and do, is to hang on by your fingernails to technology. You have to keep that. I'm never going to be brilliant at it, but if you don't, when in X years' time you're housebound, or worse still, you're bedbound or whatever, and your only means of communication will be mobile phones, etc., and a laptop. And if you can't use those things and you can't navigate, and everything is now online, it doesn't matter whether it's your banking or ordering your groceries or what, it's all online, and that will get worse or better according to your viewpoint. So I do think people need to try and, as I say, hang on by their fingernails. So if anybody out there says, I can't do this, and they're getting on in years, jolly well learn how to do it. Get a 5-year-old to tell you, because you will regret it later.
Yeah, it's not going to stop. We can't stop it, I'm afraid.
No. So the Royal Mail, what else do we have to say about the Royal Mail? Isn't Postman Pat in trouble with the thought police for some reason?
He was banned in Japan.
Why?
Because he only has 4 fingers on his hands. And missing your little finger used to be a Yakuza symbol, the Japanese organised crime. So Postman Pat appeared to be an organised criminal in Japan, so they wouldn't share his programmes. There we go.
Well, that's extraordinary. That's the third thing I've learned. So are you saying if you went into organised crime in Japan, before they let you into their gang, they would chop your finger off?
Yeah, that's right. It was like an initiation.
Yeah, it's not just that only people who were born with 4 fingers can be in organised crime. They literally chopped your finger off.
No, I don't think they were that inbred. I don't think they were an aristocracy. I think it was an initiation ceremony. So
Postman Pat... Well, hang on a minute. We've all got 4 fingers. We've only got 4 fingers. We've got a thumb.
True. So yes. Yeah.
What you mean
4 digits, I should have said. Yeah.
What does Postman... Will everybody go and check your Postman Pat and see what he's got, whether he hasn't got a thumb or hasn't got a little finger?
I think it's a thumb and 3 fingers. Yeah. Little pinky's not there, that's it.
But thinking of the Royal Mail, was it Gilbert George Scott who designed the phone boxes, the post boxes? He did phone boxes as well, because the post office used to manage the phones, didn't GPO? But yeah, wasn't it? He's the architect, or
he is. And those wonderful pie crust, the pie crust pillar boxes, which I absolutely love. The top of them, instead of just being flat and round, or nowadays people crochet things and put them on the top like a bonnet. But the pie crust ones are lovely. Well, they're just like a sort of crumpled pie crust going all the way around. They're beautiful. They're
wonderfully attractive bits of civic architecture.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it, that we've lost that sort of thing of just making them beautiful objects of art just for the sake of it, making things more functional, rather than this.
Yeah, the way people who were designing civic architecture used to go, well, people are going to have to walk past this every day. We may as well make it nice to look at.
Yeah.
Although we've got the post office. We have one of those hybrid bastard post offices that's mainly something else but has a post office in it, and there's a box there that has a crocheted hat that somebody's made, and it's a little RNLI boat, because we're an RNLI town, which is very nice. Yeah, it's a lovely bit of work.
No, I was being disrespectful to these crocheted hats, because they are splendid, and I'm in particular a great supporter of the RNLI. I used to do house-to-house collecting when I was a teenager. Couldn't do that anymore, could you? But no, the little crocheted bonnets are lovely. And just take the original Gilbert Scott phone boxes, those gorgeous red things, they just are things of beauty. And then you take the modern phone boxes, are horrendous. They're just sort of square glass boxes.
Like a shower cabinet, isn't it?
It's like a shower cabinet, exactly. Thank God people don't go and shower in them. Heavens. Perish the thought.
Gilbert Scott was the architect of Liverpool Cathedral, the Anglican Cathedral.
Oh, of course.
Not the Metropolitan one. He built the big Anglican Cathedral in Liverpool. And the reason it's that big is that the original design was for 2 small towers. But because it was being built during the war, there wasn't enough dressed stone. So Gilbert Scott went, fine, we'll do 1 big tower. And if you ever look out towards Liverpool from the Wirral, the Anglican Cathedral is so big that it looks like it's been stuck on. Like somebody in the foreground has just bunged a cathedral into your field of view. It's really remarkable. There used to be, it's not there anymore, but there used to be a lovely thing between the Anglican and the Metropolitan Cathedral, which is the Catholic one. They used to have a green laser light between the two, which was a symbol of interdenominational cooperation in Liverpool,
Unity.
which I thought was lovely. Unity,
Yeah.
exactly.
There's a wonderful story about the late Nicholas Ridley. He was the Secretary of State for, I think, Trade and Industry, but forgive me, anyone who knows that I'm wrong. But anyway, something like that. And the 2 archbishops came to see him together. They were talking about the reconstruction of Liverpool. This was before Michael Heseltine worked his magic, frankly, on the city. But anyway, the 2 archbishops find themselves at the top of Department of Trade and Industry building, and they're ushered into the Secretary of State's office. And Nicholas Ridley, probably drawing on a cigarette because he always was, said, "Right, now which one is which?" He had no idea which was which.
Here we are, 3rd location and a 3rd set of numbers, and the numbers are
6, 3, 8.
638. 638. And that means the subject is insect culture. Insect culture. So, now, Christine,
Insect culture, is that the cultivation and culture of insects, or what is it?
well, we could take that in any...
Is it eating bugs?
That could come into it. Yeah.
Eating bugs? I've done that. No, I've done all that. There's a wonderful place. I wish, with a little forewarning, I would have looked it up, but I can't do that now.
No.
There's a wonderful place in West Wales, in Pembrokeshire, for want of remembering its real name. It's called the Bug Farm, and where they have all these wonderful bugs, and then you go to the restaurant at the end, and you can have whatever.
Wow.
Cricket burgers and things like that, and it's fun, and they're perfectly nice, perfectly nourishing. I mean, I'm not a veggie nutter, but it will help to feed the world.
Yeah, there's been people who've been saying for a while that insect protein would be an efficient way of expanding the food stock without being too harmful for the environment. It's quite common in some countries. I believe they have locusts in honey on a stick and they'll eat it. And a locust is just a cricket, essentially, isn't it? It's the same sort of general.
And in Mexico, you can buy from street stores, you can buy sort of deep fried, I don't know whether they were locusts or crickets or whatever, but anyway, a little body and lots of legs. And they're delicious. But then, frog's legs, they're just a vehicle for sort of garlic sauce, aren't they? There's not really any taste to these things, I don't think. But
I don't think
perfectly
there's enough
crunchy.
of them. There's so little meat on a frog's leg that you can't. It doesn't really impart a flavour, does it?
We're all supposed to eat less meat anyway, aren't we? I read somewhere that we're supposed to limit ourselves to 2 portions of meat a week. Tell that to my husband. He likes 2 portions every meal.
Well, yeah. My oldest son is essentially just a carnivore. If I can get to eat anything that isn't meat, I'm doing really well. But trying to reduce it to that, no, I wouldn't stand a chance there. No.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Although I'm not supposed to be eating a lot of red meat because of my cholesterol, but still, chicken, turkey, that sort of thing. Yes, please. You wouldn't. The vegetables, I'm sure they're essential for life, but they're not enjoyable, are they?
Oh, I love them. You need to cook them more adventurously. I mean, I'm very often, if my other half wants a steak or something, he's a great yellow sticker person, by the way, and he doesn't like paying full price for anything in the supermarket. So he goes straight to the yellow sticker department, and he comes back with the most. I mean, we had a small shoulder of lamb the other day that was reduced from £12 something to £2 something. And it was completely delicious. I slow cooked it and with lots of vegetables. And we had it for about three meals. So that's 6 meals for £2. Not bad.
£2? Can't argue with that, can you?
Can't argue with
You really
that.
can't. I think you're quite right. I think people need to be more adventurous, actually. I mean, I've become much more of a fan of veg as I've got older, much more than I am of fruit. But the reason that I've become more of a fan of it is because I found an old series on iPlayer of Fanny Craddock. And
Fanny Craddock.
Fanny Craddock, and I was absolutely mesmerized and also quite scared. Even though this program was made in 1972, she's nevertheless quite an intimidating lady. But because of that series, I completely altered how I prepare the turkey on Christmas Day, because she does a wonderful episode on your Christmas bird. And she gets really quite cross with the viewer, not for any particular reason, but in the beginning she's pinching the bird and she says she's massaging it. And she does look at the camera and she says, "Now, you might think that I've had some sort of a nervous collapse. Let me assure you, this is important." And then she does all sorts to it. But you know what? The first time I did it was the first time I can ever say I've cooked a turkey that was, well, edible all the way through. Not just dried out. Her turkey was stunning. Love Fanny Craddock. Terrified, but love her.
Well, Fanny Craddock, I've written a book, I've written 2, but one book I wrote back in 1997, we're talking about 97 earlier, called Christine Hamilton's Book of British Battleaxes. And I kind of, redefined Battleaxe. And Fanny is in the book, of course. That's why I mention it, because she is one of my Battleaxes. And, women who are forceful and determined and forthright get all the wrong adjectives. They're described as bossy and domineering, etc., etc. Whereas a man who exhibits those qualities doesn't. He's strong, leadership, all that rubbish. So I wanted to redefine what it meant to be a battle axe. It's just a woman with balls, basically. And Fanny Craddock definitely has balls, and she had that wonderful double act with Johnny. I mean, the stories about her are legion, but they're rather a long way from what we were talking about, which was eating bugs. Oh, she wouldn't have countenanced eating bugs, would Fanny? I don't think.
No.
Probably not.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think she would have had anything to do with it. I think she liked the sort of sensuous business of massaging the turkey breast and all that. Johnny certainly did.
Yes, he did. So, Christine, now, did you come across bug eating before or after? Because, of course, you've done your stint in the jungle.
I was in the very, very first one.
Right.
And the very first jungle program was 2002. And even ITV didn't really know what to expect. It was all, even as we were sort of flying out there, it was all a bit, how's this going to work out? And in those days, there was only one person got the eating challenge. What they didn't realise then was how fascinated the audience, sitting back at home, with their gin and tonic or whatever in hand, in the flabby comfort of their armchairs, love watching people suffer. And although they probably can't even watch it through clenched fingers or whatever. So now everybody gets to eat stuff, or certainly more than one. But in our day, there was one eating challenge, there was one sort of snake challenge, there was one like that. And we had 2 vegetarians with us. We had Tony Blackburn, who went on to win, and Uri Geller. And we were sitting around the campfire. I remember it very well. And it was called a jungle feast. So we knew what the next trial was going to be. And everybody dreading it, frankly, that it was going to be them. I thought, Anyway, we decided it would probably be one of the veggies, because that's just the way the television audience works. And Tony Blackburn said, well, if it's me, I shan't do it, because it goes against my veggie code. I mean, honestly. So we were thinking, oh, God, if it's Tony, we've had it. We won't get anything. Anyway, it was Uri. And, he set the standard, and he was offered these wonderful silver, whatever you call them, silver covers that they have on food in posh places.
A cloche, yeah.
Why is it a cloche? I mean, that's what I put over my lettuces.
I think it's a cloche.
And you know what I mean, a sort of silver top. And the first one was this completely beautiful looking. It was steak and chips and goodness knows what. And, you can have that if you like. And, of course, Uri was quite hungry by then. But you won't get any meals for camp. And then they picked up another one, and there were these sort of dreadful wriggling whatnots. And he was set the standard. He was amazing. He just ate the lot. So, yes, no, you're right. Bugs do feature in one of our, what is apparently one of our most popular television programs.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh dear gosh, yes. No, that was a very long time ago. That was that was nearly a quarter of a century ago now. 2002, we're getting there. It was fun. I loved it. It was great fun. Really enjoyed it. I wouldn't do it now though. Well, they talk about getting some of the previous people back, and I couldn't do it physically. I've got too many things wrong with me. And I don't think people should be allowed to do that program and then get excused from various, so-and-so is excused from it on medical grounds. Well, I'm sorry. That's not fair. That's not a level playing field. But there we are. What do I know about it?
No. You knew what the show was when you signed up for it.
Well, not in the way that everybody knows now. I mean, obviously now everybody knows exactly.
No, sorry, I don't mean you. I mean somebody saying, "Oh, I should be excused on medical grounds." I go, well, hang on, you knew what the show was when you signed up for it.
But you're right, because Christine, you wouldn't have actually known what you were walking into, would you, at all? I mean, you've not been able to see it before. Wow.
We had no idea. And I honestly thought that probably just offset there'd be a nice sort of, white tiled bathroom with magnifying mirrors and, all that sort of thing, and flash loos. So it was a bit of a shock when we began to dawn on us that no, this was real. But I know it was fun, and I'm quite proud of being a pioneer.
Have we told the story on here about Tony getting asked to do the first series of I'm a Celebrity?
No, we haven't. No, go on. Yeah.
Right, because he used to tell this story about that apparently he was asked to do the first series, but there was kind of an entrance interview that he thinks he thought he flunked very badly, because they took him into a room and they said to him, "Okay, are you afraid of snakes?" And he said, No, I like snakes. Snakes are fine. So, all right, are you afraid of spiders, bugs? No, most of them are perfectly harmless. I'm all right with spiders and bugs. So, all right, are you afraid of heights? He said, no, I've always been okay with heights, actually. They went, all right, what are you afraid of? And he said, religious fundamentalism. Didn't get the job.
Oh.
Well, I remember being asked, because they asked me to do it in the January of that year, and we were having life was pretty shitty at the time, and I said, so, well, what's this all about? We had no yardstick to look at. And they talked about snakes and bugs and rice and beans and all that sort of thing, and trials, and I just thought, life is a bit grim at the moment. I don't need this. So I turned it down. I had no idea what I was turning down. But then about 3 or 4 months later, they obviously hadn't got their middle-aged mother hen. I was middle-aged in those days. It was a long time ago. And so they asked me again. And by then, life had improved a bit. So I thought, why not? And I remember 2 things. I remember they took me and Neil to the Oxo Tower for lunch to try and persuade us. And I said, well, if I'm going to be out in Australia for the best part of a month, I said, you'll have to fly Neil out as well, because otherwise I'll have to put him into care. So they readily agreed. And he was the only spouse who went out at their expense. Now they fly everybody out. But I remember Uri Geller had paid for his wife and her good friend of his to go out, and they were rather miffed when they discovered that Neil had swanned out first-class Qantas at ITV's expense. But I also had that interview, what are you afraid of? And I said, not really. I said, there's only one thing I'm afraid of. It wasn't religious fundamentalists. It was the editing. Because there you are, totally photographed from every angle in the minutest degree, although we didn't fully appreciate that until it was all over. And then they edit it down to sort of, an hour every evening? So they can't make you do something you don't do, but they can jolly well be selective about what they show and don't show. And people complain about that to this day. So that's the only thing that worried me, was the editing. I quite liked the open, you know. I've done a lot of sailing and that sort of thing in my life, so you know, the sort of camping element and the hardship, if you can call it that, of eating rice and beans and nothing else, it was not a problem.
Well, here we are back in the shed. Our rambles now are ended. But Christine Hamilton, thank you for coming rambling with us. Really, that was so enjoyable. Did you enjoy your ramble?
Of course I enjoyed my rambles. You're both wonderful company, and it's a great pity, of course, that your president, the late lamented Tony, is still wherever he's gone. You say he's gone to the loo. I don't know. I like to think he's gone somewhere better than that. But it's such a pity, because I would so love to see him again one day, but not today.
No, not today. But no, well, thank you, really. That was brilliant. Thank you. It was lovely to have you rambling with us. And thank you, everyone at home, for listening. And we really hope that you enjoyed this week's meeting of the Rambling Club.
Now, the club meets every Friday, but if you'd like to get in touch in the meantime, here's how you can find your fellow members.
Tony's official website is at www.tonyslattery.com, and you can get in touch with us on the contact form on the website.
And we're at Twitter at Slattery Live. Please use the hashtag TSLC to discuss any of this week's topics.
I'm still on Twitter at Paul Carmichael V, but I'm also on Blue Sky, and you can find at Slattery Live on Blue Sky as well.
And Tony also has a good old-fashioned Facebook group at www.facebook.com/groups/TheTonySlattery.
And he's on Instagram as well at Tony_Slattery_official. But Christine, social media, if people wish to follow you, and I really think that they should, because I love your Twitter, but how can we find you?
Well, I get into trouble on Twitter sometimes. I try not to be too controversial, but occasionally I just can't resist, and then everybody has a pile in. I never block anybody, because I'm not going to give anyone the satisfaction of knowing that they've annoyed me. So all I do is I mute them. So they are not aware I've muted them, but I don't have to see their ridiculous ramblings, for want of another word. But anyway, on Twitter, I am at Brit_Battleaxe, at Brit_Battleaxe. And I tweet about, by the way, I do tweet, I don't X. I mean, what is that nonsense calling it X? No. For goodness sake. Why name a social media platform after one of your children? It's Twitter. But you know, I mean, one minute I'll be twittering about leaks in the garden or how my beans are getting on, and the next minute I might have a comment about President Trump.
It sounds like the Rambling Club summed up, actually, to me. So lovely. So definitely, I think people should go and follow Christine. Trust me, you will not be disappointed.
Don't shout at me. If you shout at me on Twitter, I shall mute you.
Take note.
Quite right, too. And if people want to join the Rambling Club themselves, Paul, how do they go about doing that?
Well, the Rambling Club is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can head to www.patreon.com/Slattery Live. We'd be delighted to welcome you. You can find all sorts of lovely perks in there for members, so why not go and have a look at that?
Yes, please do get in touch by any of those methods. We'd be thrilled to hear from you.
And we'll be back for another ramble next Friday at 5 to 5. But in the meantime, it's a goodbye from myself, Paul Carmichael. It's a goodbye from Mr. Alan Lear.
Goodbye.
And it's a goodbye from our very special guest president, Christine Hamilton.
Goodbye, ramblers everywhere.
You have been listening to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club with our special guest president, Christine Hamilton. She was accompanied by Stephen Fry as the voice of the bingo machine. Acting President Hamilton was assisted by Paul Carmichael and Alan Lear. The music was composed and performed by Michael Livesley and Andy Frizzell. 3 voices are by Michael Livesley and the show's concept is by Paul Carmichael. Our producers are Stuart Morris and Alan Debing, and the show's researchers is Sola Carmichael. The show's producers are Erika Lear and Mark Hutchinson. Our executive producer is Chris Castle, and the series executive producer is Mark Strickson. Tony Slattery's Rambling Club is a Fanfanitel production.
Goodbye, and thank you for listening.